So yes, today I wanted to talk about buffs and nerfs for Season 6. My name's Dratlaw44, I hope you are all having a great day so far. So what I wanted to do is just to go through each legend, some in a bit more depth than others, and just talk about where they are at the moment, their potential buffs, and potential nerfs. Because let's face it, I think at the moment some legends are exceptionally strong, they're really powerful, and some are very underwhelming and very weak. Now before I get into it, of course, do remember to never stop moving, never stop believing, and stay Apex. Right, let's get into the legends. So the first one then was actually Loba. I've been looking at Loba a little bit as of late. I've been playing her a bit more and just trying to kind of really get the kind of feel of the legend and exactly where she's at in the meta, and just as general as a sort of a feeling. Underwhelming, I think, is a great word for her. I think she's, got the potential to be amazing, but truthfully at the moment she's just not in the best place. So where I feel that she needs improvements, and this would be buffs, really. So her bracelet needs a buff. Personally, I'd like to see a slight speed buff for it to actually activate, and still be able to shoot or run whilst waiting for it to land. A big thing is that you feel like you're just a standing dummy if you throw it in a kind of a tough situation. If you're trying to use it as a getaway rather than maybe like just reposition, you are stuffed. Now, the animation takes too long. I feel like that it is very sort of, you feel like you're waiting there for an hour and you are just a target to be shot, and you can't do anything while you wait for it, so you can't defend yourself, you can't do anything, and I really would love to see that be changed, because I feel that that would really just help in her personal kind of play, but it would help the player be able to actually do something. Now another one is a bug fixed where the bracelet returns and you can't go where you want, and it gets you killed, which is very frustrating. Now this is a bug, it's not really a buff or a nerf or anything like that, they just need to fix it. It's mainly on World's Edge, but they definitely need to sort that out, because it's absolutely horrific and a right pain. Now the black market, I'd like to see a slight buff to that as well. So teammates can take up to 3 items. One can be ammo, and then the other 2 can be just normal items as per normal, and Loba can take up to a max of 4. It is excluding Vault, of course, because let's face it, that would be ridiculous. Again, 3 normal items and 1 stack of ammo, because it's so frustrating to need ammo and you have to take that as one of your items sometimes when there's other items that would be much better. It's kind of ridiculous. So it'd be good to have 3 separate items and 1 for ammo as a kind of reserve, so you know that you're in a good place. Right, well, that's it pretty much for Loba in that regard. What are your thoughts? Any suggestions? Put them in the comments below. I'm always happy to hear feedback, read reviews, take on suggestions, all that type thing. So the next one then is Bloodhound. Now, he's a really easy one to talk about. To be honest, he doesn't really need a buff or a nerf. He's in a pretty solid place. His usage is pretty decent. If they made one change and it was a kind of a buff, it would make his ultimate a bit quieter. But would that be too overpowered then? Would that kind of, set aside the drawback of the character? Let us know below. If you're a Bloodhound main, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts there. So the next one then, of course, is Gibraltar. Gibraltar, well, okay, basically this guy is, I think, still ridiculously strong. They've overbuffed him and overbuffed him and overbuffed him, and just made him an absolute nightmare to deal with. Have you ever tried killing him with a Spitfire? Now, Spitfire's a good gun, but if you ever tried killing a Gibraltar with one, you just feel like you never can. Maybe that's just me, but I literally cannot kill that guy with a Spitfire. Absolute nightmare. Now, the Fortified perk I would like to see changed. I think it's too overpowered. Heavy should be able to slow him, because they did say that actually Gibraltar moves at the same speed as other legends, so why shouldn't he be affected like everyone else? I don't get that, and I never understood the change back in when they did it. The damage reduction should be reduced by half to 7.5%. Personally, if it were me, I'd like to see 0, but I know that they're not going to do that, so 7.5% seems much more reasonable. It means that he's not impossible to kill, but he's going to be still a bit tankier, but just not ridiculous. His ultimate is fine. I mean, again, it lands really quickly, it does a lot of damage. Yeah, that should be fine. His Dome Shield, I feel like, should have a higher cooldown, but I think it is 35 seconds anyway, which is kind of the highest. So yeah, I could probably just leave that as it is for the time being, see after these kind of changes how it was, if they were to take him on board. His shield, I feel, still also has too much extra health. Now when you include his fortify, especially at early drops or late game when he's got like purple shield and things, it's an absolute nightmare to deal with. So I'd like to see the passive shield reduced down to 25 points and then see how it performs from there, because they can always adjust it. You know, this is the beauty, is that they can always adjust it and see kind of where he's at. And let's face it, do you ever see anyone saying that Gibraltar isn't overpowered? Unless you are a Gibraltar main and you just can't admit it. But most people will say that he's the strongest, if not one of the strongest legends in the game. He definitely is. Okay, so the next one then was Mirage. Now, I tried my very hardest to make this a non-biased opinion, because I am a Mirage main, and I do also main Bloodhound as well, but I don't want any legend to be overpowered to break the game or ruin it. Now, my suggestions are this. He does need something extra to make him a team legend. I feel like he's, same as Octane, just in a place where he's great fun to play, but his team viability is absolutely terrible. So my suggestion is that when an enemy shoots a decoy, you and teammates within a certain radius get between a 5 and 10% reload speed increase. Now, it wouldn't guarantee victory, but it would add more value to Mirage being part of the squad. You could lower the cooldown of the decoys to kind of compensate for that. I wouldn't mind that if he was still giving some sort of viability. So yeah, I mean, maybe reduce his cooldown of his decoys to 15 seconds or something like that, or 20 seconds, just something so it isn't ridiculous, but he's still, make it 15 seconds I think would be fair. I don't think it would be still too OP. Still leave the little marker. I mean, I'd love to see something else a bit more original, like I've suggested before, like a little scan or something like that of an area, but again, maybe that's too overpowered. For his ults, I would love to see his ult invis just increased to 4 seconds invisibility instead of 2. You can't decloak or anything like that. But that would be just really nice, just to again give him just a little bit of a repositioning tool without being too ridiculous, because I just feel like 2 seconds is just, it's too obvious where the Mirage is running to, and that isn't just for me because I'm a Mirage main. I've seen it so many times when a Mirage, another player Mirage uses it, and I can identify straight away that it's the one that's backing off from the fight because he's taken the damage, and it's so easy to track and finish them off. So I think that's just too easy, and he's supposed to be a bamboozler. I would love to see that. So yeah, so I mean, if you're a Mirage main or you use it at all, any comments below, awesome. I'd love to see them. Right, okay, so Lifeline was the next one. So to be honest, I feel like Lifeline's in a good place at the moment. She's kind of like Bloodhound. I couldn't really think of any nerfs or buffs for her particularly, and that's purely because I just think that she is really, really decent, but not ridiculously overpowered. But then maybe that's me. Maybe you've had a different experience and you'd like to see some changes. Let me know. If you want to comment about Lifeline, then of course do so. I'm always eager to hear opinions, always happy to reply to comments when I can, and of course have discussions, because it's an interesting subject. You know, I mean, this is Apex Legends, it's the best battle royale game out there, and I want it to be in a good place. No game is ever going to be perfect, let's face it, but if we could see it, you know, just a little bit of a meta change, make it more interesting. And I realise that at the moment, you know, with the devs being in lockdown, well, having been in lockdown, shall we say, in their homes, of course, we have to understand that, you know, the amount of availability that they had and the way that they could come up with ideas for Season 5, it's probably been a miracle that they've been able to do almost anything. But it would be really, really nice to kind of see a meta shift. I feel like that is the biggest thing for me at the moment. I would love to see a meta shift, but there you go. So Watson, right, okay, so Watson is a questionable one. Now, personally, I do not use Watson hardly at all, but there are for various reasons for that. Now, what I would do firstly for her is I would remove her 5% damage increase. I didn't even know that they changed that. When she's shot, she takes more damage. I don't know why that was added. It was a short while back. It seemed really dumb, to be honest, especially as she struggles outside anyway. Yeah, inside she's very strong, outside she's terrible, which is why I don't use her. I'd like to see her fences do less damage, but have a longer stun duration if someone then runs through it. Because actually, currently, it's not as scary as I thought it should be. Because I played a little bit of Watson recently, and I had someone charge through the fence, complete kamikaze, and, you know, there's two of us. We started shooting, and they managed to kill us both. Now, we were shooting them. We didn't understand how they managed it because we were both shooting them at the same time. We have no idea how they survived. Maybe they were cheating, but they didn't seem to be affected hardly by the stun. They did take a bit of damage, and then they turned around and blasted both of us. And I've seen that more than once. It's not the only occasion that I've seen that. So it just seems a little bit less scary. Pylons should remain the same, but a passive I do feel needs a rework. Think she needs something for outside of buildings. So if you do use Watson, or you've played Watson, and you have some ideas on that, I would love to hear your suggestions, because to be honest, I couldn't think of anything more than what I've already suggested on a video, which is kind of like for second ultimates and concept ideas. I'll post the links below in case anyone of you are interested. But you know, if you've got any suggestions, comment below. I'd love to hear it. So moving on to, of course, Pathfinder. Now, I might be only one of the people who thinks he's very balanced. He offers great team play. He isn't as ridiculous like he used to be. So I'd be quite happy to see him left the same. But I know there are a lot of people out there that are moaning and saying that he's not good, and also his usage tanked. But then his usage tanked to actually being more balanced with the other legends, so I don't think that was a bad thing. I think that was the best thing that could happen, but I'm sure that is only me. If they did reduce his grapple cooldown to 25 to 30 seconds, but they actually fixed his hitbox and his audio bug where you can't seem to hear him or his footsteps, so he can just seem to seemingly sneak up behind you and shoot you, then that wouldn't be so bad, and it would kind of balance things out. Keep the Pathfinder mains happy, but without kind of, you know, doing all those things that are really irritating, because that was the biggest problem, is he used to be able to grapple, you couldn't hear him, you can hardly have a hitbox, you hardly hit him, and then you get killed, and it was so frustrating. If they fix the hitbox and his footsteps, reduce his grapple time, everything else is perfect. I think he'd remain a very strong and good team legend, but he wouldn't be overpowered, hopefully. They can always look at that anyway. Right, okay, so moving on to Crypto. Okay, so the guy clearly needs to be one that is able to use 50 drones at once, EMP the whole map, and see everything on his drones all the time. Okay, I'm only kidding. I don't think he needs any of that, really. But he does need a change. Where, like Watson, he has to have something for outside that isn't drone-related. I did suggest in another video about him having, or being able to EMP, basically by doing it himself, rather than needing the drone or having the drone out or anything like that. But as always, I'm always open to hearing some suggestions that maybe could give him some sort of benefit, you know, that would help him when he's outside and not in buildings, and it's not related to his drone. Any thoughts or suggestions on Crypto? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear it. Right, so moving on to Wraith. So I feel like with Wraith, she's in a good place right now. I do think her passive could do with a slight rework, because though it does give a little warning that someone's got a shot on you, it doesn't tell you anything else, and you know, it's a bit, how can I put it, a bit rubbish. But, you know, to be fair, if they left her as she was, I don't think that would be terrible either. But do you agree or disagree with that? Let me know your thoughts. So Bangalore. Bangalore, there has been a bit of talk to buff old Banga. And to be honest, I don't see really why, because I feel like she's actually a very solid and overall a very strong legend. But if they were to buff her, then maybe some slight adjustments to her ult explosion, sort of the speed. You know, it takes a long time currently to kind of activate. They could speed that up, which would be really good. And maybe, you know, kind of like what they did with Caustic's gas, maybe make her smoke 50% visibility better for you and teammates, but maybe increase the cooldown to compensate. Would that work? Do you think that would be good? So, you know, so your teammates and you can see a bit better in the smoke than other people, but the cooldown is increased to kind of compensate, so you can't just spam it willy-nilly and have advantage all the time. Would that be a good change? Let me know. So yeah, so that's those ones so far. Now, Octane. Poor Octane. I feel like he's such a fun legend to actually play, just like Mirage, but same as Mirage, as a team player, he lacks in that department as well, making him less valuable. I feel like more buffs are coming with this one, so personally I'd like to go with jump pads being his ability, so his L1 ability or whatever button it is to activate his ability side of things. He still is able to regain health slowly as his passive, and maybe stem as a passive for him as well, but doesn't take maybe as big a chunk of life off him, but has a slight time gap to be able to use it again, just to keep it reasonable and things like that. The ult should be something like where he gives his team a whole kind of movement and reload boost for like 5 to 8 seconds. So, you know, he kind of like within a certain radius, if he activates it, he gives all the legends, all his teammate legends that is, a movement and reload boost for that sort of 5 to 8 second duration. Do you think that would work for him? Would that make him a more viable legend while keeping him as fun as he currently is? Because let's face it, he's a very fun legend to use, but his team viability really lets him down. And I'd love to sort of see some changes where he remains a lot of fun, but isn't OP, just does something for the team. Revenants, right, now this is a strange one for me. So, my friend Viper actually plays him quite a lot. His death time is pretty strong, but one thing I've noticed though is that the duration just seems way too short to take much advantage. Now, we do try and put it close to, you know, ish to where the people are, so we don't put it miles away then go running. We try and put it at a reasonable place that will give us some advantage. And it doesn't seem to be that amazing depending on the situation. But I hear a lot of other people saying how strong it is and things like that. And with all the charge towers around, maybe it could take a bit longer to activate. So maybe, you know, a slightly kind of like longer duration for the death time to activate. That is about it. I don't know. I mean, maybe it should also have some sort of range kind of like limitation, but just still a much better range than it was, but maybe like a range limitation, because again, that is a big problem that I hear a lot of the time, and although I haven't really experienced it, I realise that, you know, at pro and high level, of course, it's going to be used a lot different. So do comment below on your thoughts on that one. Right, so lastly is, of course, good old Caustic. Oh, we love Caustic, don't we? Ha, yeah. So it's only been really recently that I've actually seen tons more Caustics and how strong he is now. Now, I already was aware that he was a strong legend, but let's face it, he kind of didn't seem as ridiculous, but lately I've been having a nightmare with him, and I've seen that, yeah, it's definitely a much bigger problem than I'd imagined, and I've experienced it firsthand, rather than seeing comments and reading things and seeing people say about it. So again, with Fortify and heavy ammo, it should be exactly the same as Gibraltar, so what I said earlier. His gas should do less damage, because that combined with the stun is ridiculously overpowered. And when you look at Watson's fences, they are actually easy to see, but the gas canisters or gas traps aren't. So you can easily run into them in a building, you can easily run into them around a rock, even outside, and they just completely disable you. You might as well just put your controller down, because you're pretty much as good as dead. So they could either lower the damage and stun to make it reasonable, or make it so they were easier to see. So maybe a bigger sized sort of canister or trap or whatever. Does that sound like a good suggestion? I do think that they need a quality of life change though, I will say that. So have your teammates' gas a different colour, because many times I've run into a trap thinking it's my teammates, and it turns out to be yet another Caustics. His ult I haven't really had a problem with, except in buildings. It does do a ridiculous amount of damage, but you know, maybe the damage could be slightly reduced, wouldn't be a thing, or maybe its radius, so either its radius reduced or its damage reduced wouldn't be too terrible. But I have heard from various people actually at endgame it's a nightmare, so if anyone's had experience with that and you know, kind of seen it at endgame, maybe in ranks and things like that, could there be something else that they could do to balance it, to make it not as dumb? Because with gas everywhere, it just makes the game a living nightmare. So that is pretty much it for regards to this particular video. Hopefully you found it fun and useful and viable. Do comment below if there's any other ideas that I missed or any other suggestions that you have. Do remember, of course, in the meanwhile, to never stop moving, never stop believing, and stay Apex. And if you liked the video, a like on the video really helps me out, because, again, recently I've grown slightly in size, up to 52 subscribers at the time of this video. Absolutely amazing, and thank you for anyone who have subscribed and the support. All I can do is continue to aim to grow. The next target, of course, is 100 subscribers, and I'm very confident I can do it eventually. I've just got to have other people hopefully like my content. But thank you very much for taking the time to watch. If you did watch to the end, I shall see you in the next video. All the best. Take care. Bye now.